She discovered a half-frozen stranger in the snow and brought him back to life, never learning his identity. The wind howled across the desolate mountain pass, whipping snowflakes into a dizzying dance. Lila pulled her coat tighter around her, shivering despite the layers. She was used to the cold, growing up in a town where winter stretched for months, but this storm was unlike anything she had seen. Visibility dropped to near zero, and the only sounds were the gusts of wind and the crunch of her boots against the frozen path. That's when she saw him. At first, he looked like a dark lump against the whiteness, a shadow swallowed by the storm. Lila froze, her heart hammering. Something about the way he lay there didn't feel right. She rushed forward, kicking snow away to reveal a man half-buried, his face pale and lips tinged blue. His chest barely moved, and a thin layer of ice clung to his eyelashes. "Oh my God," she whispered, fear and adrenaline surging through her. Instinct took over. She wrapped him in her coat as best as she could, dragging him to a small clearing where the wind was slightly less brutal. Her own fingers were numb, but she didn't care. She tore strips from her scarf and pressed them against his face, trying to warm him. She whispered softly, words of comfort that felt silly but necessary. Minutes felt like hours. Lila knew hypothermia could kill in moments like this. She dug through her backpack for anything to help, a thermos of hot tea, a first aid kit, her phone, though there was no signal. Her hands were shaking as she poured the tea over a cloth and pressed it to his chest. Slowly, faintly, his eyelids fluttered. "Hey, stay with me," Lila murmured. "You're going to be okay." His eyes opened slightly, clouded with confusion. He didn't speak. He couldn't. His teeth chattered uncontrollably, and he trembled under the weight of the storm and his frozen body. Lila wrapped him in every layer she had, holding him close to share what little warmth she could. Hours passed. The storm showed no mercy, but Lila refused to leave. She took turns sipping her tea and pressing the warm cloths against his skin. She murmured stories about her life, her cat at home, the little bakery in town. She loved anything to distract him from the cold. She didn't know if he could hear her, but she hoped the sound of her voice would anchor him to life. Finally, as night fell, he shivered violently one last time, then his body relaxed. His breathing stabilized, deeper and steadier. Relief flooded Lila, and for the first time, a small smile broke through her exhaustion. "You made it," she whispered, tears freezing on her cheeks. "You made it." Over the next few days, she took him to the small cabin she rented at the edge of town. He was weak, barely able to sit up, but he was alive. She fed him soup and warm bread, coaxing him to drink and rest. He still wouldn't speak, only nodding or shaking his head. Lila tried to ask his name, but each time he only gave her a vacant look, as if he couldn't remember. Days turned into a week. The man began to regain strength, walking slowly with her support. His eyes were a striking shade of gray, almost silver, and though his hair was dark, streaks of white suggested a life of hardship. Lila called him Gray for now, because she couldn't remember his name, and his eyes haunted her. Despite their growing closeness, Gray remained a mystery. He never spoke of where he came from, who he was, or how he ended up in the storm. Lila respected his silence. She couldn't force someone to remember what they had forgotten or what they wanted to hide. But one night, as they sat by the fire, he reached for her hand, weak but deliberate. He didn't speak, but the gesture said everything. He was grateful. He trusted her. Lila's heart swelled, realizing that some connections didn't need words. In the weeks that followed, life began to return to a semblance of normalcy. Lila went about her routines, and Gray shadowed her quietly, learning to cook, to chop wood, to navigate the small town without drawing attention. His presence was both comforting and mysterious, like a story written in a language she didn't yet understand. Sometimes, when she watched him sleep, she wondered about the life he had lost. She thought about the people who must be searching for him, the family who might have despaired, the friends who didn't know if he was alive or dead. But she also realized that some people, like Gray, were meant to appear in your life as a puzzle, a mystery, a reminder of the fragile beauty of survival. One snowy evening, as the wind rattled the windows, Gray finally spoke, just a single sentence, quiet but clear. "Thank you." It wasn't about his identity. It wasn't about his past. It was about the life Lila had given him, the second chance he never expected. Lila smiled, squeezing his hand. "You're welcome. That's what people do." And in that moment, the storm outside didn't seem so fierce. The snow didn't feel as cold. Because some stories didn't need a name, and some people didn't need to be known to change your life forever. Gray stayed with Lila for months, then years. He never revealed his past, and she never asked. His identity remained a mystery, but his presence was a gift she never wanted to let go. Sometimes, late at night, she would think about that first night in the storm, the fear, the desperation, the fragile hope. She would think about the way he had trembled, half frozen, and how she had held him close, whispering words into the blizzard. And she would smile, because she had saved a life, and in doing so, her own had been forever changed. Some stories, she realized, weren't about finding answers, they were about the courage to act, the kindness to care, and the quiet miracle of giving someone a second chance at life. And for Lila, that was enough.